On April 6, 2021, a 71-year-old retired engineer named Robert died in his home in Scottsdale, Arizona. He had worked for the same aerospace company for 34 years. He had a paid-off house, a modest investment account, and a life insurance policy. His total estate, everything he had built across a lifetime of work, was valued at $1.2 million. His two children expected to split it. What they received, after estate attorneys, probate fees, and the mechanisms of a wealth transfer system that Robert had never explained to them because he had never fully understood it himself, was a combined $810,000, roughly 67 cents on every dollar Robert had spent 40 years accumulating. 30 miles away, on the same day, the estate attorneys of a Phoenix family office that managed $340 million were completing a generation-skipping trust transfer that moved $47 million to a client's grandchildren with an effective tax rate of 0.3%. The tools that made that transfer possible are legal. They are not secret. They are simply inaccessible to anyone without an estate attorney, a family office, and an accountant who specializes in structures that are specifically designed to exploit the gap between the tax code's stated purpose and its actual effect. What is happening right now, invisibly, systemically, and at a scale with no historical precedent, is the largest transfer of private wealth in human history, and the structure of that transfer is designed to concentrate wealth upward, not spread it outward. $84 trillion does not move randomly. It moves along the channels that were built to receive it. Here is the scale of what we are talking about. The baby boomer generation, Americans born between 1946 and 1964, currently holds approximately $84 trillion in assets: real estate, stocks, bonds, business equity, life insurance. That wealth will transfer over the next 20 to 30 years to their heirs. $84 trillion. That is roughly 3 times the entire U.S. national debt. It is the largest generational wealth transfer ever recorded in any country in any period of human history. The consulting firm Cerulli Associates has been tracking this transfer since 2019. Their projection, updated in 2024, $105 trillion will transfer between 2024 and 2048 when accounting for continued asset appreciation. Of that $105 trillion, approximately 42%, more than $44 trillion, will flow to the wealthiest 1.5% of households. The bottom 60% of households by wealth will collectively inherit approximately 6% of the total. This is not a projection about who works harder or who deserves more. It is a mathematical description of how the current system distributes the wealth of one generation to the next. And the structure of that system, the trusts, the stepped-up basis rules, the dynasty trust laws, the family limited partnerships, the 529s and grats and ILITs that fill the vocabulary of estate planning, is a system that was written by, lobbied for, and continuously refined by the same households that benefit from it most. 3 mechanisms, each one legal, each one nearly invisible to anyone outside the class it serves. First, the stepped-up basis. When Robert died and left his investment account to his children, any gains on the assets inside that account, the growth that occurred during Robert's lifetime, were erased for tax purposes. This is called a stepped-up cost basis. The assets are revalued at their market price on the date of death. Robert's children owe no capital gains tax on 30 years of appreciation. This provision, which costs the U.S. Treasury approximately $41 billion per year, is almost never discussed in the context of wealth concentration. It is, however, the single most powerful tax advantage available to heirs of large investment portfolios, and its benefit scales directly with portfolio size. The larger the unrealized gain, the more tax is forgiven. Second, dynasty trusts. Since 2000, 49 U.S. states have eliminated or dramatically extended the rule against perpetuities, the legal doctrine that historically prevented trusts from existing in perpetuity. Today, it is possible to establish a trust in South Dakota, Nevada, or Delaware that holds assets in perpetuity, forever, protected from estate taxes, divorce proceedings, creditor claims, and, in some structures, income taxes. An ultra-high net worth family that places $50 million into a dynasty trust today can compound that wealth, tax-advantaged, for generations. The wealth never re-enters the estate tax system. It never gets redistributed. It simply accumulates, controlled by a trustee who serves the family's interests across decades, then centuries. There are currently an estimated $5.8 trillion in Dynasty trust assets in the United States. That number is rising by approximately $300 billion per year. Third, the family office exemption. A family office, a private wealth management firm serving a single ultra-wealthy family, is exempt from the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. It does not register with the SEC. It does not disclose its strategies, holdings, or fees. It operates entirely outside the regulatory framework that governs every other investment advisory firm in the country. In 2021, the collapse of Archegos Capital Management, a family office that had accumulated $100 billion in leveraged positions using financial instruments that allowed it to hide its true exposure, caused $10 billion in losses at Credit Suisse, $1.7 billion at Nomura, and $900 million at Morgan Stanley. It was only after the collapse that regulators discovered the scope of the positions, because Archegos was structured as a family office and was therefore under no obligation to disclose them. As of 2024, there are an estimated 10,000 family offices in the United States, managing a combined $6 trillion in assets, none of which is subject to the disclosure requirements that apply to every other investment vehicle in the American financial system. Here is the number that ties all three mechanisms together. The effective federal tax rate paid on inherited wealth in the United States, across all asset classes, all estate sizes, after all legal structures are applied, is estimated by economists at the University of California at Berkeley at approximately 2.1% on inherited wealth. Wealth accumulated over a lifetime, compounded over decades, transferred across generations. 2%. A salaried worker pays an effective federal tax rate of 22% on income earned by going to work every day. A billionaire's heir pays 2% on wealth accumulated across a lifetime and transferred in a single legal transaction. This gap did not appear by accident. It was constructed, provision by provision, over 70 years of tax code revisions that were lobbied, funded, and shaped by the same families whose wealth those revisions protected. The estate tax, which was 77% on estates over $10 million in 1976, stands today at 40% on estates over $13.6 million, with so many legal exceptions that the Treasury collects it in only 0.2% of all deaths. The $84 trillion transfer is not a neutral event. It is a mechanism for calcifying the wealth distribution that exists today into the wealth distribution of the next century. The children of the wealthy will receive compounding assets, tax-advantaged, inside structures that preserve and grow that wealth forever. The children of everyone else will receive, if they are fortunate, a share of a house, a modest investment account, and a tax bill on anything they manage to accumulate themselves. The question you are supposed to ask after watching this is whether you find this system acceptable. But that is not actually the most important question. The most important question is whether you know that this system exists and is operating right now in ways that will affect the financial trajectory of your family for the next 3 generations. Because the people who benefit from it are very much counting on you not knowing, and they have so far been largely correct.